Coming up on No Pulp, we had jersey retirements, we had huge upsets, and some fights in college basketball this week. One of the craziest weeks of the college basketball season.
It was awesome. You know, this is when college basketball gets the spotlight on it with the NFL season over, and the sport absolutely delivered. I'll tell you what, I've got a plan on delivering later on in the show when I take on John Boccio and the Juicer, his first time on here, and I think we'll send him home.
All right, well, we're giving out some mid-season awards as well, plus our plays of the week and our final words. It's a classic No Pulp here at CitrusTV. Starts right now.
Kansas State has been on fire this year.
Missouri is one of the most fraudulent teams in college basketball.
And it was proved it.
They're not going to fire him. He's the best player in program history.
Side to Lawrence for the win. Yes, he got it.
She is the Shohei Ohtani of college softball. This is a team that's potentially going to be a top 10 team in the country.
How you feeling?
I'm excited to win the Juicer.
LSU has captured its very first national championship.
Welcome into our CitrusTV studios for this episode of No Pulp. Adam Avin and Adam Gotkin here with you, talking everything college sports. But Adam, the biggest story from the past week and everything that's going on right now, college basketball. It was hectic this past weekend. 11 ranked teams lost. Shout out our producer, Nick King, for that stat. I mean, so many teams lost this weekend. Was there anything that stuck out to you?
The one thing that stuck out to me personally, not really related to that, was I was actually in California for the Syracuse-Cal men's basketball game.
Sure.
First time I've ever been in a place where college basketball starts at 9 a.m. Awful. I want to wake up, get into it. I wake up at 9 and there's a top 10 game on. It was horrible.
All right, well, Kansas-Iowa State's happening as we speak, so hopefully we get a live check-in at some point throughout this show. But out of all the crazy games that happened this weekend, Adam, the biggest story was Coach Cal, John Calipari's return to Rupp Arena now as the head coach of Arkansas, and a former Kentucky head coach and Hall of Famer Rick Pitino also decided to chime in because he knows what it's like to have a grand return to Rupp Arena as well.
So he's coming back on Saturday, and I want all of you to show the great class that you have. 23,000 plus people giving him a huge standing ovation. Show him what respect and admiration's all about. I know you have the class. I've always believed in you.
He always believed in him. They did not show up. I thought they would have been a little bit kinder to Coach Cal, don't you think? I mean, yes, he won a championship. Yes, 15 years. I mean, maybe you want a little bit more accolades and stuff like that. But, I mean, Coach Cal, look, they're booing him as he walks in. He brought them some of the most talented college basketball players we've ever seen, period.
Yes, and this is not Ed Cooley leaving Providence for Georgetown. I get it there. That's a coach who's still in his prime. They're still good. Kentucky fans wanted Cal gone last year. Right. I remember when we were on our March Madness show after they lost to Oakland, and I said it's time for Cal to go. That's what the fans wanted, and then he leaves. Why are you complaining? Why are you booing? This is exactly what they wanted. Mark Pope has been awesome and is the perfect fit for what Kentucky wants to be.
100%. Former player, that's his friend now.
No need to boo at all. And I think that's part of the reason why Arkansas wins this game by 10, because there are guys on Arkansas's team who played at Kentucky. They had so much emotion in it. I don't think that the Kentucky players necessarily cared as much as those Arkansas guys did.
Yeah, I mean, look, it can't mean a split wasn't inevitable at a certain point. Sometimes you outgrow a relationship, and that's fine, but you still have respect for your partner. And I think Kentucky, for a lot of people, that respect is still there. I don't know. I wasn't a fan of all the booing because I thought he brought a lot to that team. But, I mean, what a game, and Arkansas really took it to the Wildcats there.
It was fun. It was exciting. Yeah. There's been so much chaos. There's been a lot of emotion in college basketball this season, which I love because that's what makes college basketball so special. And how about that Texas Tech against Houston game in Houston? Just 4 minutes in, Texas Tech's best player and coach get ejected. Doesn't matter. They still go on the road and beat a top 10 team. Just absurd.
Not only was it the craziest game of the weekend, Adam, it had maybe the craziest just moment. I mean, a player, their best player, gets ejected because he threw a pass across the court and happened to kick an opposing player and his special place.
JT Topic can't do that.
It wasn't
he can't do
he
that.
He can't do it. Maybe it was a little over the top, but I mean, I don't know if it was necessarily on purpose. Either way, I mean, that requires him to get expelled from the game. I don't know. And then the coach, we're gonna see it. I mean, the reaction, the over-the-topness was ridiculous. I mean, the reaction for that, something as minuscule as that, yes, I know you disagree with the call, but I mean, oh my God.
Yeah, it's just absurd. Kirby Hocutt, the athletic director at Texas Tech, he made it very obvious his thoughts on these ejections, saying, I'm appalled and disappointed by the officials' egregious decision to eject J.T. Toppin. And then again, he then went on to eject the coach as well. I mean, this was just crazy. He said that he spoke with the Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark after it to say that this situation would be addressed and there would be accountability, which means the way that I read it, there might be accountability for the officials. The commissioner may be agreeing that this was the wrong decision.
It was ridiculous.
To eject Toppin, but at the end of the day, it didn't matter because Texas Tech still went on the road and beat Houston, something that is very hard to do because Houston, while maybe in my mind not a national title contender this year the way that they've looked, is still Houston, and that's still a team that's very hard to beat.
Houston does not lose at home.
No.
And Texas Tech did that without their best player and their coach. Regardless of any other team in college basketball, maybe Texas Tech showed us some of Houston's weaknesses. Winning in that arena, even if you figure them out or not, is not an easy thing to do. Props to the Red Raiders for going on and winning that game. People forget they were in the Final Four just a few years ago. Speaking of Texas Tech, tomorrow night they take on the Baylor Bears. That should be a good one as well. But we got to talk about Baylor's most recent game, the one that happened over the weekend, where they played against Kansas. Adam, Kansas blew their largest lead in program history, 19 points. They were up 40-21 at halftime, and Baylor comes out on top. What an upset.
Yeah, this is just what Kansas is this year. I really do not think that this is a good Kansas team. First off, Hunter Dickinson is what it's supposed to be. He's in his sixth year and he's not any better. He doesn't have that takeover ability. And my goodness, the transfers have just been massive disappointments. AJ Storr averaged 16 points per game last year at Wisconsin. He's barely averaging 6 this season.
Yeah.
KJ Adams just has not been good. I mean, this Kansas team has just been such a disappointment. They blew an awful game against Houston the other week where they were up a ton with I think 5 with 9 seconds to go. I mean, Bill Self just does not have his team playing good basketball right now.
And that's exactly why I want to talk about the Baylor Bears. They outscored the Jayhawks 60-30 in the second half. What a performance from the Baylor team. Not to mention, they were without Jeremy Roach, transfer from Duke. He didn't even play in this one. VJ Edgecombe, the 5-star
He's
freshman.
Awesome. He's
a great player. Maybe still has some of those freshman vibes in some big games, but he was playing really good in this one as well and left the game early with an injury. So kind of similarly to Texas Tech, kind of overcoming obstacles in a game with players, coaches ejected to overcome and win a game against essentially a top 10 opponent. Baylor did the same thing in Kansas here, ranked number 11. Robert Wright, 24 points.
Another freshman.
Norchad Omier, 18 and 16.
Yeah, how about Norchad Omier being on Baylor now? He was at Miami last season. Baylor's brought these new guys in, and they are really gelling at this point. Again, Norchad Omier transfer in, Robert Wright a freshman, VJ Edgecombe a freshman. There's a lot of talent on that Baylor team. Of course, Scott Drew knows what he's doing. Won a national championship not too long ago. So I do think that maybe Baylor has some promise. But again, I think my biggest takeaway is that Kansas has a lot of issues right now.
And by the way, Baylor 10-1 at home also, kind of like Houston.
New arena, very cool.
A lot of upsets happening in college basketball. Could one take place in our juicer tonight? Adam
Nope,
Gotkin
not
takes
at all.
on John Boccio in just a little bit. Stay with us.
Welcome to my house. Everybody's pretty tired of each other. The walls were closing in. Clearly, a case of too much family, too close, 24/7. If this sounds like your house, try going someplace new. YourLifeYourVoice.org. You'll find lots of ideas to help you handle the family stresses of being confined to close quarters. YourLifeYourVoice.org. It could help you find a little more breathing room.
Welcome back into our CitrusTV studios. It's no Pulp, Avin, Adam Gotkin, joined by our juicer opponent for this one, John Boccio, making his juicer debut. Congratulations on that. We'll see 5 big booms for the debut. We'll see how it goes for you in this one. Typically in the juicer, we focus on a specific sport. Today, we're focused on a topic, coaching. And John, we're going to start with you for this one. Men's basketball, college, which coach is on the hot seat right now?
The coach that has to be on the hot seat right now is none other than Villanova's Kyle Neptune. And you guys want to know why? Villanova is a program that is built on greatness. And what have they been anything other than in the last 2 seasons under Kyle Neptune? Well, great. They've been horrendous the last 2 years, just barely a 500 team. The fans are at his throat. Last year, bad. This year, bad. If this wasn't Villanova, maybe Neptune's fine, but because it is, Neptune will not be coaching the Cats much longer.
Here's the thing. I like where you're going with Kyle Neptune, and I agree he's on the hot seat, but for me, it's a guy who's at a program that's at a step above, and that's North Carolina. Villanova's really Jay Wright, and that's all. North Carolina has a list of legendary head coaches, and Hubert Davis has not lived up to that at all. I mean, this team is just straight up playing bad basketball right now. They've lost 4 of 5, just 6-5 in ACC play. He's got talent. It doesn't matter. They still stink. His recruiting isn't where it needs to be. He's had some success in the past, but it was with all of Roy Williams' guys. Now that he's got his own guys in the program, they're not even very good.
Adam, he's got one of Roy Williams' best in his last few years.
And they still stink. And they're still not. Exactly. That's the point.
And they still stink, but they made a Sweet 16.
All right. Both of these teams, you can consider them blue bloods, legendary programs, but I'll tell you, after that Duke UNC game, that is not a Tar Heels team. And Hubert Davis, regardless of what you think, he went on a crazy Final Four run a couple years ago, but it hasn't been the same since. Adam Gotkin gets the first point. Hubert Davis on the hot seat. Adam Gotkin, similar vibe here with our second question. We're going over to women's hoops. Which coach right now would you consider to be the most overrated in the NCAA?
I'm going with someone from another really good program, high caliber program. That's Kelly Graves at Oregon. Once elite. They won 10 conference championships in a row, and now they've absolutely fallen off a cliff. Won just 11 games last season. 8th place in the Big Ten right now. Oregon's probably the easiest place to win in the country. They have all the resources. They've got Nike behind them, and they just are not good anymore. Haven't won an NCAA tournament game in almost 4 years, and they don't have any stars. They don't have a single player averaging over 11 points per game. A program that once was great. A program that, again, won 10 regular season titles in a row. 8th in the Big Ten now, won 11 games last year. He's overrated. He cannot get it done anymore.
I understand saying he cannot get it done and that he was, riding on the coattails of Sabrina Ionescu. However, a player that has really rode off the coattails of one certain player, and you guys might look at me crazy, but it's head coach of the Fighting Irish, Neil Ivey.
The number 3 team in the country?
Absolutely the number 3 team in the country. And you want to know why? Notre Dame right now has a sub-top 120 defense in the nation. And what wins championships? That's defense. If Notre Dame is going to carry this into March Madness, it's going to be bad for the Fighting Irish. They haven't made it past the Sweet 16. I don't care what their ranking says. They lost to a lower-seeded Oregon State last season. And this year hasn't looked much different. Hannah Hidalgo can't save the Fighting Irish on offense. That's why I say Neil Ivey.
They're on a 14-game win streak.
Yeah,
the number 3 team in the country.
I'm not saying they're a bad regular season team. When it comes to postseason, that's where it might become difficult.
Both of you guys, I like this. Just so civil. You guys are saying, I understand where you're coming from, but then you give your own point. I like that. It was some banter in between. But Adam, I got to go with John here with this one because Neil, they're
the number 3 team in the country.
It doesn't matter. We're looking at the big picture right now. They haven't seen the postseason. We're talking to most of
Oregon hasn't won a tournament game in 4 years.
Her players perform. They haven't shown up on defense. They haven't. And yes, they're winning games, but the rest of the conference right now, say what you want to say. They're winning the games that they should win. Oregon.
Exactly.
Not
winning the games they should win.
Either way.
I don't know, Greg. That's exactly what I want to hear from
I do know.
Overrated is the name of the game.
Overrated is the name of the game. Exactly. That's what we're talking about. We're looking at the big picture of things. All right? All right, whatever. Anyways, back to John Boccio for our last question here. We're switching sports. We're going to lacrosse. John, Adam, you guys really know lacrosse, so I expect a good one here. Most surprising Week 1 coaching performance. The season is underway. Which coach had his team in the best shape Week 1?
I say that the coach that had his team in the best shape and made the most impressive win in Week 1 would be Brian Brecht of Rutgers. And this is exactly why. They grab a 10-6 win over Lehigh, and Lehigh brought back 3 of its top 5 scorers from last season. And then past that, Rutgers has been a meddling team the last few years. 7-7 last season, just simply not the program that should be beating a team like Lehigh, who was the number 20 team in the country. Plus, when you want to talk about just coaches, Rutgers was barely in the top half of the NCAA for scoring defense last season. They give up just 6 to a team that was averaging over 11 goals per game. That was the least they've scored since February of 2023. Brian Brecht coached his team up, and he did it well.
It's Rutgers beating Lehigh. To me, that's not something that's too special or crazy. They were 7-7.
Lehigh was in the NCAA tournament last year.
Because they won an awful Patriot League. For me, it's Andrew McMahon. A ranked team. For me, it's Andrew McMahon and what he did with Utah, going on the road to beat Ohio State. This is a Utah team that's been good. He is taking them to the next level, scoring 19 goals on the road against the number 19 team in the country. He knew how to take advantage of this Buckeyes team's weaknesses. Only 8 of the 19 goals were assisted, and that's because of the way that they drew up this offense. They knew who to dodge on. They knew exactly what they had to do. And by the way, the job that he has done at Utah to win, 10 different players who's got points from 9 different states, that's not an easy thing to do. He's doing that at Utah.
Utah's a fast-paced team, but that is not the reason that they're winning this game. It's just because they out-conditioned Ohio State.
Because that's great coaching.
Well,
No.
Conditioning is coaching, yes.
Well, look, here's the thing. Lehigh was ranked 20. Ohio State was ranked 19. The Utes scored 19 goals. They scored more than Rutgers 10.
The Utes
Adam
were also far better.
Gotkin wins the juicer.
Yes, they were.
Look,
Hey, you know what? You
it
tried.
was a good one. Hey, juicer debut. You did a good job. You got the 2-point question. That's not something that's easy to do. All right, but obviously the juicer standings, something that we're keeping track of now. Let's take a look. Adam Gotkin, plus 2-point differential, tied with Austin Barrett because it goes by most recent. I think that's why you're ahead of Austin. I don't really know.
Either way, maybe.
Yeah,
I'll take it. Number 1.
Maybe.
Number 1.
Either way, John Boccio. Hey, there's still a shot for you to make the Juicer tournament later on. But we got to go.
Trust me.
We got to continue with the show because we're going back to basketball. We're giving our mid-season awards, men's and women's hoops. Stay with us.
It's a beautiful day out here. Sunny today with light breezes, giving way to clouds in the afternoon. We could see some light precipitation to moderate precipitation later on, followed by powerful storm-like conditions. 90 miles per hour winds are expected. Authorities are asking everyone, stay indoors. Come on, that's it. Let's go.
Here we go. We're gonna go out there in the rain. Gonna get wet. All right, here we go. Okay, quick. Oh yeah, yes. So much fun. Mwah. We're getting so wet.
Welcome back into No Pulp. Adam Gotkin alongside Adam Avin. It's time to give out some awards. My biggest award, Timothy Chalamet, Best Actor for his job as Bob Dylan in The Complete Unknown. That's my
the Grammys last night as well.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Awards season. Why not?
You see the red carpet?
I did.
All right.
Very entertaining. All right, so it was the time. It's our time now to get to our mid-season awards because it's about the middle of the college basketball season. Let's start with the Men's Player of the Year. And to me, there's no one else but Janai Broome.
Ooh.
He's the best player on the best team in Auburn. I mean, this is a guy who is just an absolute stud. He's a pro, 6'11", can score inside. He can shoot a little bit when needed, but he can just do whatever is needed to win games. I mean, he is an athletic monster. He averages 18, 11, and 3. He's an elite defender. He's been an all-conference defensive player every single year. Janai Broome is just so talented, and again, the #1 player on the #1 team in the country, and so often that's really all you need to be the National Player of the Year. And to me, I think it's got to be Broome again when he does defensively, and then 20 and 11. I mean, that's just hard to top.
I mean, there's a couple of guys that maybe can also be in that consideration, but for the place where Auburn is right now, just in the rankings, the place where they've been and the way that he's been playing, I mean, when he's off the floor, this team looks a little bit different. When he's on the floor, I mean, this is a really good team. Staying on this note with men's hoops, a lot of some of those top players are transfers. Let's take a look at the transfer of the year, and I think it is none other than Chaz Lanier from Tennessee. I mean, Rick Barnes does this with his team, Adam. Last year, it was Dalton Connect from Northern Colorado, brought him in, and Tennessee was one of the best teams in the country. This year, it's Lanier. He's a guard. He's averaging nearly 18 points a game, 3 rebounds, 1 steal. He's shooting 42% from 3, and he came over after 4 years from North Florida, and this wasn't the guy who led that team either. He was a reserve. Now you bring him in, you pair him with Zakai Ziegler in the backcourt, and now defenses need to choose, do I guard this guy or do I guard this guy? And if they're choosing to guard Ziegler, Lanier's hitting his shots, and that is why Tennessee has done something really special this year. The SEC's a really hard conference, but he's balling out.
Not shocking at all that it's guys from the SEC that's our player of the year or transfer of the year, because it's just that good of a conference. I'll tell you what, let's move over to the women's side, and a program that is always just that good is UConn, because of course it's UConn women's basketball. They're always going to have great players, and they have got an elite freshman this year in Sarah Strong. She was the #1 high school recruit, and she has been the #1 freshman in the nation. And there's really no one close. 17 points per game, 7 rebounds per game. Gino Auriemma has compared her to Brianna Stewart. That's a pretty high praise. One of the best players of all time. She also leads the Huskies in steals and in blocks. She's an elite defensive player, a great athlete. And I mean, when you're scoring 17 points as a true freshman, when you're not even the star offensively, when the offense isn't going through you, but it's going through Paige Beckers, is really, really impressive to have that much production while not even being the #1 option.
Yeah, not even being the #1 option. That's exactly where we're going to go right now. Some players who now might be the #1 option on their team in women's hoops. And let's take a look at the most improved player from women's college basketball this year. It is going to be none other than Flau'jae Johnson from LSU. Look, she's been on the team 3 years now. You might be saying, well, I know her. She's the rapper. She's super famous. Yeah, we know who Johnson is. She's a superstar for this Tigers team, but the reason she's the most improved player this year, she had 11 points as a freshman on that championship team. That had Angel Reese. And then last year, 14 points when Haley Van Lith, the other guard, comes in. Now she's at TCU. This is her team this year. 20 points per game. She's improved all aspects of her game while still being able to do everything she wants to do off the court and everything. She has been absolutely balling this year. LSU, I believe, ranked 7th in the country right now. The SEC still balling out in women's hoops just like it is in men's hoops. And she's the most improved player. She gets the, what do we call it, the Pulpy? She gets the Pulpy of this award.
This is the Oscar, right?
That's an Oscar, but
the Pulpy
it's
for
the Pulpy,
this.
Yeah, for this.
Well, congratulations to Flau'jae Johnson. I mean, it's fun to see a
Great
player
story,
like her who stays at the same school and improves and develops under a legendary coach like Kim Mulkey. This is what I love in college basketball. Players who go somewhere and
they
then
stick
stay
around.
there.
They stick around.
It's exactly what we're looking for.
And a
for
great
you
story,
all.
and that's why she gets the most improved award.
That she's sticking around. We're looking for you all to stick around, because when we come back, we've got our top plays of the week, our final words. No Pulp rolls on after this.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Welcome back into our CitrusTV studios for No Pulp, and we start here with our plays of the week. You can see it right here. Caleb Love's half court, a little more than half court, his buzzer beater. Look at this. Look at that. Come on. To force overtime. Get out of here. Look at that. Look at that. Slow it down. Slow it down. Caleb Love, who's been in college basketball for like 10 or 15 years already. I'm just playing. But he knocks down this shot from the logo, beyond the logo. I mean, what a basket from him.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to really get in his face. You can't give him that much room in a spot like that. That's not good defense there at all. For me, I'm not going with a marquee game. We're going a little bit lower, down to the American Conference. We got East Carolina taking on Temple this game at Temple. And how about this dunk from Jordan Riley? Bam! Oh, no! Oh. That is a crime. You can't do that. My goodness. Riley with the yam on his face. That is disgusting. That is gross. That is a crime. My goodness. How about that?
Well, those were some awesome plays of the week. And now we got our final words. A big story in the Senior Bowl on Saturday. We had Jack Beck, the wide receiver from TCU, scored the game-winning touchdown after his brother, Tiger Beck, passed away in the New Orleans terror attack on New Year's Day. Tiger was a former All-Ivy kick returner for Princeton from 2017 to 2019. When Jack found out that he'd be playing in the Senior Bowl, he announced he'd be wearing his brother's number 7 during the game. And on the fourth and goal in the final quarter, Jack Beck caught the clinching touchdown with 7 seconds remaining. After the game, Jack was asked about the moment and said, "My brother has some wings on me. He gave them to me and let it all take place." Jack's expected to be drafted to the NFL in April and honor his brother Tiger every step of the way.
That's a truly touching story there. Those are the type of stories that you love to see, coming back from something that's sad. For me, for my final word, a little bit of a lighter note, I'd like to give a big shout out to Mississippi Valley State and their men's basketball team. And you might be saying, why in the world would you shout out Mississippi Valley State? They are literally the worst team in the country in the net rankings, in the KenPom, and they won a game against a Division I team for the first time this season, and they did it while having the most elite social media page in all of college basketball. Before every single game that they play, their Twitter account DMs their opponent and says #WhyWePlay. They always have a great time. They know how to keep it light, and they have some elite tweets during the game. I've got a couple of them written down. When they lost to Southern, the final score, Mississippi Valley State 42, Southern held to the least amount of points in a SWAC game. Yes, they lost. They're not even going to tell you. They're just going to give a little bit of a positive. How about this? Halftime, they don't even give a score. Just say that things could be better. Mississippi Valley State, the worst team in the country, but they keep things light. They know how to have fun. And again, they won their first Division I game of the season against Arkansas Pine Bluff this Saturday. So shout out to the Delta Devils. They have the worst facilities, worst budget in the country, but they got it done.
There you go. They got it done. So, some cool stories from more of the personal side and the sports side to end off our show here. We're also getting word that Kansas and Iowa State is playing right now. And let's see if we can get it's 52-33 Kansas.
Wow.
Right now.
Iowa State is really
Kansas
struggling.
is rolling Iowa State right now.
I mean, Iowa State has completely fallen off a cliff. This is not the first bad loss that they've had. I mean, that offense, awful. 33 points, that is not good enough. And this Kansas team, again, we talked about all the issues that they've had. This is really, really surprising to see that much of a lopsided game, not necessarily because of how bad Iowa State has been, but because of how bad Kansas has also been recently.
Milo Momcilovic, Ohio State, I mean, he's a great basketball player. I mean, to me, that team didn't really have it to begin with. I mean, you see Texas Tech right now, Adam, maybe the hottest team in college basketball. The Big 12 is rolling. And
is it, though?
Yeah.
I mean, those are supposed to be two of the best teams in the Big 12. Kansas just lost, and now Iowa State can't beat them.
Yeah, but if Kansas wins this team again, you're looking at a top 10 matchup right here. I mean, I like where the Big 12's heading, especially Texas Tech. And even though Houston lost that game, I still have faith in that Houston team. I do. I mean, they're good year in and year out.
Here's the thing. Last year, the Big 12 was the best conference in the country last year, I think, without a doubt. This year, it's not even close. I mean, the SEC is miles better. The Big 12 just isn't where it was before. I think this proves it. I think that Iowa State is no longer serious if they're getting blown out like this against a Kansas team that has so many flaws.
Yeah, a lot of teams with a lot of flaws, but if you go back and watch our No Pulp episode on YouTube, you'll see that the Duke Blue Devils rolled North Carolina, and they're going to keep rolling on just like we will next week. Adam Avin, Adam Gotkin, go watch our webisodes on YouTube.